growth mindset is not self-improvement. It's reality flexibility. Isn't that a beautiful word? It's like, how flexible can I be while I look at reality under emotional charge? We talk about growth mindset and what growth mindset actually is. And why growth mindset? Because I found a statistic about, and it's a 2024 statistics. I posted it on LinkedIn 2 days ago. 96% of top leaders claim to have a growth mindset, and only 40%, 45% of their teams would second that, agree to that. So if we do the math, and a bit roughly, if we take 100 leaders, less than half of them actually have growth mindset, although every single one would claim it. And that is in leadership, where people tend to have more growth mindset. If we actually go out into society, where not everybody is claiming themselves as a leader, there is much less people with growth mindset. What's the opposite of growth mindset? The opposite of growth mindset is stability mindset. People have been calling it fixed mindset. I don't like this so much because it feels like something is stuck. But if you grow a lot, you also have to be on the other side creating stability within you. And sometimes in life, you have phases where you would even yourself, and long phases, as in this doesn't shift all 3 weeks. The way you regulate and create your reality shifts slowly, but there will be years, maybe even decades, where you would consider you have a growth mindset. And there will be other years or decades where you would say, currently I live from a stability mindset. And that distinction is something I want to give at the beginning. We're a little bit in glossary at the moment. And the second thing I want to make sure that everybody fully understands is that growth mindset is not self-improvement. It's reality flexibility. Isn't that a beautiful word? It's like, how flexible can I be while I look at reality under emotional charge? So not when everything is easy peasy, but when we're actually, let's say, in a phase of emotional intensity. When Ali just checked in with me, quickly asked him how he was, and he explained a little bit about his current emotional intensity. And that is when you see if people have a growth mindset or not. And a couple of things, Ali, that you said was totally indicating to growth mindset. And I'm going to mention a couple of, I'm not going to give away your situation, but maybe one or two lines here or there, because you said fantastic things that really indicate to that. So first of all, growth mindset, and the other end of the stick, as in the counter value metaphor that you all know, is stability mindset. And growth mindset is not self-improvement. So it's not about getting better. It's about being flexible. And that requires perspective mobility, nervous system bandwidth. Most of the people who've worked with me know that I'm big about that. Humility, metacognition, feedback tolerance, all these things. I'm going to go into all of them. You don't have to write down every single piece of them. I'm going to bring you the traits of growth mindset today. What is it actually? So you fully understand that when you claim it, or when you say, currently me, not so. And also, that's not binary. We would never say I'm 100% growth mindset or I'm 100% stability mindset. You're like your tendency will go to one or the other side. I am clumsy with English words today. All right. So the trackable behavior of growth mindset. First of all, as something that we can witness and research has come up with, what growth mindset is, it's psychological flexibility. So that means, as I said earlier, you're able to hold more than one reality at the same time. Or you're able to test one reality while you're still holding the other. So your growth depends on accepting the inner experience that is currently happening while choosing maybe some other thing that could also be true. That's why my company is called What Else is True. That is literally the description of growth mindset in that sense. And it means that you're not being ruled by the current story and that you already understand, oh, that could be challenging. Because sometimes, you know, there's this beautiful line, I read it recently, and it's obviously something people say a lot, and I just didn't know. And that is that you can change from choice. And if you don't do that, you will have to change from disaster, because standstill doesn't exist. So practicing growth mindset is quite a cool idea, because it gives you the, I want to say, bandwidth, perspective, option, choice to actually do it proactively and not let things pile up until there's no more room to maneuver. And the practice to get more psychological flexibility is a practice that comes from Jennifer Garvey Berger. She is holding the legacy of Robert Keegan in Harvard, who does developmental psychology, benchmarking, globally benchmarking. And she says when she's interviewing a person and she has an idea how they could actually be in their consciousness, she asks the question, how could I be wrong? And I find it a beautiful question, because we're so even trained, pushed to constant validation, that how could I be wrong is a cool question when we feel stuck. So that's one way to find psychological safety. Next one, very beautiful one, intellectual humility. So not I'm wrong, and this is not contradicting what I just said, but my current map may be incomplete. And the research links growth mindset with openness to opposing views and greater intellectual humility. So the practice for this is very simple again. If you look at something, you're not looking at it from contrast. It's not either or. It's like, not this is true or that is true. But could both things be true? There is no such thing as a wrong truth. A truth is always true in any human being. But there might be a bigger truth, or there might be a coexisting truth. The coexisting truth is basically the opposite, or something when you have a vis-a-vis and you're not of the same opinion. But that doesn't mean that the other person is wrong. It's just a different opinion. In their perspective, this makes sense. If you have a bigger truth, then you found the so-called meta, which means you suddenly understand that both perspectives can fit into the same life, the same friendship, the same solution, into something where you're both comfortable with. And that's finding the meta. And the intellectual humility, you can practice that by simply asking, find one thing that could also be true in the other, like what else is true? Same question, always coming back to that. So it's not either or, so it's both and. Is there a meta? Can I find one perspective where your opinion and my opinion can coexist? Next one, metacognition. That one is easy for all of us. That's why we are here. Join the Trailblazer calls is the practice. Find out how you're thinking, learning, defending, interpreting, all these things. This is the cognitive layer of growth. So you're not just changing the effort, but you're changing strategy. You understand about understanding suddenly. That's metacognition. And that is literally what I'm doing with you guys. We are training our metacognition. We're training awareness, and we're also training embodiment. But this is about metacognition right now. Next one, feedback permeability without identity collapse. Now that sounds fancy. What does it mean? That's Brené Brown's work. We all know Brené Brown as one of the most fantastic leadership authors and embodied, I always call her my spirit animal. She has written one of my favorite books here, Strong Ground, and also fantastic audiobook. She's reading it herself. If you want to read about leadership or listen about leadership, that's the book to go, in my humble opinion. And she says that when you have the possibility to accept feedback without your identity being totally hurt, That's growth edge, basically. That is not, it's not destroying you, basically. So you have something going on and feedback comes in and somebody says, and you don't take it so deeply that you feel highly and deeply offended. Every time you feel highly and deeply offended, something in us is touched that wants to be integrated, that wants to be recognized. And to be able to do that is growth mindset. And Brené Brown's leadership work frames courage. The courage to do that is teachable. And one of her practices is called rumbling. I like the word. Rumbling is entering a difficult conversation with curiosity, courage, vulnerability, and a commitment to truth, to find truth, to feel each other's truth, basically, not from defensiveness or blame or self-protection. And the really good question to do this is when you have a conversation that you feel like that's a challenging one, you can ask yourself, what's my part in this? How did I contribute to that? How do I contribute to that? And that's one way to leave a conversation open and not having to close the lid on something very difficult, for example. It's being responsible. And your identity doesn't collapse when you receive harsh feedback or like what's the word? Rejection, or the end of a relationship, whatever kind. So what's my part in this? How did I co-create that? It's very helpful to grow into more empathy for oneself and the other. Next one, self-compassion after failure. I find this not as easy. And that means that's actually the anti-shame layer. Without self-compassion, growth becomes punishment, because if we fail, we feel like we've done wrong and we don't get up anymore. And we feel horrible. And what we're doing there is we're totally victimizing ourselves. Oh my God, I've done wrong. How could I? And then you kind of shame yourself. And do you understand how you put yourself in the victim position when you do that? And coming from a growth mindset means that whenever we fail in something, there's this one line that possibly puts it straight. How can I accept what only time could teach me? Right. Next one. Reality contact over self-image protection. Sounds fancy again. What does that mean? So a fixed mindset or a stability mindset protects their identity, does not want to change. Change means identity change. You cannot change just in behavior. You have to change in identity first. I have explained this repeatedly. If you, for those who've been here longer, the fixed or the stability mindset protects identity. The growth mindset protects contact with reality. You see, it has a bit of a risk in it. Because if I say, okay, I put myself in a risky situation all the time because I want to see, I want the feedback, that actually might be harmful too. So either you protect the reality contact or you protect the identity. And if you might want to consider, if you have already protected the identity enough, you want to shift into checking with reality. And if you have checked with reality a lot and you've cut yourself repeatedly again and again and again, you might stop doing that. So if somebody wants a difficult conversation and you've avoided it for a long time, you might want to check in with reality. The conversation might not even be as difficult as you think. That often happens to me. I'm often enough protecting my identity because it's new. Those who know me longer know that I've shifted in the last year so much that I'm trying to stabilize in my new identity. And that means I'm often not talking to people for a while because I think this is too exhausting. And then they totally surprise me. And I'm like, why was I scared of that or insecure or annoyed or whatever the feeling is? And the other way around, is that you have been in contact with something, you had a lot of difficult conversations, and every time you get out, you're so hurt. Then you stop doing that. You just say, okay, how often do I want to repeat this? There is no change in your behavior. There's no change on your side. I'm stopping to hurt myself here. You see? So the growth mindset is not doing the one thing or doing the other. But the growth mindset is understanding which one is applicable. Which one is the pivot? I've avoided this for so long, go there. I've hurt myself so much, leave. The pivoting in that. So reality contact over self-image protection versus stopping to hurt yourself. That is the full line I have here in my notes. And that is a characteristic of growth mindset. And now we're getting a little bit to the end, the last ones here. Strategy shifting and not effort worship. What's effort worship? When you double down, try harder forever. You know, you've done something for a long time and it's failing and failing and failing. And then you're like, a woman once said to me, I've invested 7 years in this man. I'm not giving up now. And I'm like, you're trauma bonding for 7 years. Would you just start to love yourself, please? Instead of him. That's what I mean. You know, when you've invested a lot, it's so much harder to let go of something that's really not good for you. And also, sometimes you have to stick with something to be really successful. See, it's always a bit tricky, but you have to feel inside yourself, am I hurting myself for years and years? Or is the growth just so slow that I would want to give in? Check for pain. If there's pain and something that really feels narrow and your self-worth is constantly being questioned, you more and more doubting yourself because somebody else is doing that to you, then shift strategy. How do you do that? You know that from startups, rapid prototyping. Another one of my favorites, emotional metabolism. So that's the ability to self-regulate. What does it mean? Self-regulation is not managing your emotions. It's not calming yourself all the time, but it's having the bandwidth to let your emotions fully come up and stay with them. Anybody who has seen Michael's coaching session with me on YouTube yet, he asked me a lot of things about masculinity. And I told him a lot about how to create bandwidth, because that's a masculine trait in all of us, men, women. This is not gender. This is inner faculties. So being able to hold your own emotions and be with them. What does it mean to hold your emotions? It doesn't mean you hold them in. It means you witness them. You're in the same space with them. You laugh, you cry, you smash things, whatever you do. Make sure you don't hurt anybody around you, but letting it all come up and be with it, and then let it ebb off again and rise from your own ashes, basically. That's self-regulation. Emotional metabolism is one of the biggest structure builders and the absolute dead-on sign for a growth mindset. And the last one I'm giving you here, there's many more, but I'm going to give you the most important ones, is repair capacity. We've talked about repair repeatedly. So a true growth mindset shows up relationally as the ability to return, to repair, to update, to apologize, to clarify, to renegotiate. And without repair, growth stays self-conceptual. What does that mean? That means this is not about growing into more of me in relation to my context, but it's growing into more of me just for my own sake. That is related. I'm very careful here with naming it like that, but it has a narcissistic feel to it. People who constantly are on about growth, but are not really good in relationships, they conceptualize self-growth instead of being able to do it together. And usually that's because they don't have repair capacities. And how do you foster repair? It's also very simple. Say sorry and then ask what the other one needs. That's shifting the whole game with anybody. And it's not the sorry, because saying sorry is something most people can do. But the second part, ask what the other needs. That is all the magic. Because that means I am able to look beyond my own pain here. And that's one of the most beautiful traits in any human being. Get out of your own shoes and be empathic with the other, even though you're currently hurt. Wow. That's amazing.